The Prime Minister has told councils in England to get on with the job of fixing the country's pothole-plagued roads with a cash boost of £1.6 billion. But is it enough? Joining us now is Mark Morrell, a.k.a. Mr Pothole, who has campaigned for road improvements for the past 11 years. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Is it enough? Is this going to be enough? Is this going to solve our pothole crisis across the country?
No, it's a drop in the ocean. We've got a £16.3 billion backlog in carriageway maintenance, and you know the money they're talking about. Back in 2020, 2021, it was £1.78 billion by the previous government, and the year after that, the deterioration of our roads got worse by £2.2 billion. So it's a complete joke. You know, you look at the road behind me here and see these potholes. No point in repairing those. They're not going to last. It needs resurfacing. Not unless government invest an extra £3 billion a year, index-linked, into resurfacing our roads, will we make any difference? Because we're wasting hundreds of millions of pounds fixing potholes. We see poor quality repairs, and when we see good quality repairs in a road like that, they won't last because structurally it's unsound. And in 15 years' time, if they do not do this, 51% of our roads will be structurally unsound. You know, it's platitudes, it's smoke and mirrors. And to be honest, I just don't think any politician will ever face the fact that we need to actually spend this money. It's costing the UK economy £14.4 billion a year through badly maintained roads. So invest to save, and it will make a massive difference in the longer term. But I'm afraid politicians don't seem to think about long term in this country. It's too short-termism, and to be honest, I'm getting fed up with them.
Mark, so just to explain, if they were to fill in these potholes, how long do they last then? Are you saying, I mean, when you say short term, how long is that?
Well, in this location, if they did a repair, it might last months if you're lucky, because on this junction particularly, you need to take out the whole junction and resurface it. The structure, not only the wearing surface, the base course below it's gone, and even some structural defects. So if you do repairs on it, a bit like if you have a filling at the dentist, if they don't drill back to get to a good tooth, you don't get a decent filling. And it's the same sort of analogy with the roads. And this junction is particularly dangerous because we've seen cars drive on the other side of the road on a junction to try and avoid them. Now, you know, that could be catastrophic for someone.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen a fair few potholes, and as you say, it's not just sort of the risks that it puts people at, it's also the cost, isn't it, the damage to people's vehicles, and hugely frustrating for everybody when, you know, wherever you go, wherever you drive around the country, you will see potholes.
Yeah, exactly. And cyclists are very vulnerable because, you know, these potholes full of water, a cyclist may go through them not expecting them to be like they are. You know, they're over 4 inches deep in places. And, you know, it's reported that one cyclist a week is killed or seriously injured as a result of potholes. And over 70 motorcyclists are killed or seriously injured each year through badly maintained roads. So there's a human cost, there's a financial cost, also the cost of the economy. So I do not believe that there isn't an economic case to actually prove that you can invest in our roads, because, you know, if you're going to maintain an asset that's vital to the UK economy, then you should be putting money into it instead of wasting billions of pounds on other things that they choose to do. I mean, £22 billion for carbon capture that apparently has never worked anywhere. In the meantime, our roads are falling to pieces, and it's impacting people. You know, hundreds of pounds of repairs when the economy's like it is and people's money's not available.
OK, well, listen, thank you for your thoughts this morning. That's Mark Morrell, otherwise known as Mr Pothole. We can now speak to the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, who joins us now. Good morning to you. I mean, Mr Pothole was quite clear there. You know, we've got this £1.6 billion investment, but it's nowhere near enough. The Asphalt Industry Alliance has said £16.3 billion is needed, but Mr Pothole himself put it quite clearly, didn't he? He said it's a drop in the ocean. So this isn't going to be enough, is it, to fix the problem?
So we're not pretending that this money is going to be able to fix every single pothole in every corner of the country, but it is a 50% increase on what the previous Conservative government was spending last year. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, announced £500 million additional expenditure on this in the budget, and we're announcing the allocations to individual local authorities today. If all of that additional £500 million was spent on fixing potholes, that would be equivalent to 7 million additional potholes. This is a really significant investment. But to pick up the point that Mark was making, we are giving flexibility to councils to determine how to spend this money in a way that represents really good value for money for the taxpayer. Because in some circumstances, a proactive resurfacing of a stretch of road might be the right thing to do compared to a more reactive.
But you haven't given them
filling.
enough. But there's not enough money to do that. Mark, you want to refer to Mark. Mark made the very point. It needs to be about £3 billion
a year.
A year. Now look, when your party campaigned to be the new government, you said about the Tory party that they had no strategy, that they were inept, that the bad decisions were made. And here again, yet again, you're doing exactly what someone accused them of doing, of short-termism, just putting a Band-Aid on this solution. And Mark has explained, a lot of people say, you need a long-term plan and strategy to this, and you're not willing to do that.
I strongly refute that, to be honest, because if you look at what the RAC and the AAA have said in response to this announcement today, they've welcomed it and they recognise that it is a very, very significant investment, a 50% uplift on what the last Conservative government spent. We obviously had a budget for 1 year in October, and we will be heading in to the second phase of the spending review. So I would ask people who are driving home for Christmas today to consider this as a down payment. I want those people to be thinking, to know and be safe in the knowledge that when they're making that journey next year, their roads are going to be in a better state than they are today.
But will they be in a better state, though? Sorry to interrupt. Will they? Because the thing is, I know you say you're giving local authorities the flexibility on how to spend the money, but I think they'll be thinking, well, we just need to patch up these potholes, and if they haven't got the money to do the proper resurfacing, then a year down the line, those potholes that have been fixed may well be crumbling away. A lot of viewers getting in touch today saying that the way they're repaired are an issue. Michael says one of the biggest problems with potholes is that companies are making money from carrying out substandard repairs. They deteriorate in no time. Carolina, another one where I live, potholes are being repaired in a manner that can only be described as rushed and poorly executed. So it's very frustrating for people that actually they see potholes being filled and then not long afterwards, that's it, they need to be filled again. That actually is that investment that's needed to fix our roads for the long term.
So it is really important that councils use this money wisely. I was in Essex yesterday with their highways management team. They are getting an uplift of £12 million to do work on their roads. And some of the work that they do will be proactive resurfacing of roads to ensure that we are getting really good value for money. But there are, unsafe potholes that need to be filled in, and this money, this additional 500 million, which takes it up to 1.6 billion pounds, is a very, very substantial investment. There's been a decade of underinvestment under the previous Conservative government. We're determined to change that and to turn that around so that people's experience of the roads is better next year than it has been. I know that if you're hitting a pothole and having to go to the garage or the mechanic to sort out broken suspensions, getting new tyres, it's hugely expensive, and we're very alive to the pressures that people are still experiencing on their household budgets. And so I was hoping to be able to spread a little bit of Christmas cheer this year, making it very clear that we are determined to improve the state of our roads and deliver on that manifesto commitment as well. We promised to be fixing more potholes than the previous administration, and that's precisely what we will be doing.
Let's hope that that works. When we're looking at how money is spent, something else that's in the news today is the cost of HS2 and when this is going to be ready. And it seems that it could be up to £83 billion, but it's been revealed in the Commons Public Accounts Committee that we won't know the exact cost till next year. We don't know when it will be operational. Can you give us any clarity on this, exactly how much it's going to cost and when people can expect to be using it?
So I have asked the new chief executive of HS2, a man called Mark Wilde, to report back to me on what his assessment is of the cost and the schedule to deliver the railway between London and Birmingham. I am appalled at the mess that I inherited from the previous government. My predecessor, Lou Haig, who was the Transport Secretary before me, was equally appalled. She was right to re-establish ministerial oversight, which had faded away under the previous Conservative government. She also instructed an independent person, James Stewart, to do a review of the project, and I'll be looking at that, as well as working with the new leadership of HS2 to get a grip on the costs, because we need to deliver this railway as cost effectively as possible, and to have an iron grip on those costs going forward, because that hasn't been the case today.
OK. Heidi, before you let you go, just want to talk to you about the situation in Gaza. A lot of our people at home will be very concerned about what's happening. There's been reports coming out of Israel this morning that the Haaretz newspaper, for example, have done a report where they spoke to current active soldiers who have admitted that civilians are being killed unnecessarily, that bodies are being left to be eaten by dogs, and that helicopter missiles have killed children. And these are active soldiers in the war right now. Israel deny this and say they are just targeting military objectives. Meanwhile, Médecins Sans Frontières, that's Doctors Without Borders, have called it out as a genocide, and so have Human Rights Watch. How long can your government support Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel when so many other people now, credible people, are calling out as a genocide? Does this put Britain in a very dangerous and difficult position?
I think everyone finds the scenes of what is happening in Gaza and the Middle East absolutely horrifying, and we have been clear for a very long time now that we need an urgent ceasefire for the violence and the hostilities to stop, to get more aid in. And I think at this time of year, at Christmas time, it makes the whole situation even more intolerable. I'm not across the detail of what has been reported in the last few hours, so forgive me if I don't make a specific comment on that, but I know that this government is determined to find a way, working with international partners, to bring peace to Gaza and the region, because the loss of life there is absolutely intolerable and unbearable and cannot go on.
OK. Thank you very much for your time, Heidi Alexander, this morning, and a Merry Christmas to you.
And you.